Welcome, Ashland. Woo! So good evening. My name is Lori Kaplan, and on behalf of Ashland.news and our Better Prepared Wildfire Series team and our partners, I am pleased to welcome you to this presentation, this program this evening. As the lead partner, I get to brag a little bit about my organization that I'm representing, which is Ashland.news tonight. I wear a couple different hats. You might know that, but that's okay. I love our community. So I'm just going to brag a little bit on Ashland News since we're your primary host for this evening. So Ashland.news, I hope you know about it. Who out there subscribes to Ashland.news? I love you people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so as you know, we're a nonprofit, community-supported, digital-first news service serving residents of Ashland and nearby areas since 2022. So we believe in connecting and celebrating our community, and we believe the news should be free to everyone, but of course it's not free to produce. Many parts of the country are now news deserts, but thanks to your support, the incredible support of this community, we are blessed with real live, not AI, real live human professional journalists under the leadership of our executive editor, Bert Ettling, and a host of talented community contributors. So thank you. I'm grateful that in Ashland we have Ashland News, and I'm so grateful to the community for the support that you've given us to make news, have a news organization in this town. So thank you. Thank you so much. In addition to reporting the news, we also believe we have an important role to play as a neutral convener of important community conversations. And this is part of our mission that gets me really personally very excited. I see Ashland News as, you know, we've kind of evolved past traditional media, for-profit media. We're a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to support the community. We're driven by the community, supported by the community, and we're here to be what the community needs from us. And part of that, for me, is about bringing the community together to have the kind of conversations that we're having tonight. Because when I think about the issues that we need to be informed on, that we need to get together on, unite, and be called to our best selves, this issue, of course, is top of mind for all of us, and I'm so grateful that you took time out of your schedule to be here tonight. So this is why last year Ashland News formed this informal community partnership to combine our skills and resources with other partners to bring you this series. Tonight's program is the fourth in the series, and then Ashland News will be issuing a print edition largely devoted to wildfire topics and resources that you will get free to your mailbox in the next coming weeks. And what a great collaboration this has been. So I'm going to introduce our partners. First, I don't know if you've heard about these guys, but there's this thing called the City of Ashland, and they have a fire and rescue department. And I think you know who they are. We've had a wonderful opportunity to collaborate with the city and AFR. Our partner, Ashland Together, back here, their mission is to foster kinship and collaboration, shining a light on vital social and racial equity work in our town and beyond. Through cultural events and community gatherings, Ashland Together amplifies voices that are often overlooked, nurtures relationships, and supports meaningful change for a more just and welcoming community for all. The Ashland Climate Collaborative is a nonpartisan community organization dedicated to mobilizing a joyous and empowered community to live safely and responsibly in a changing climate and do what we can about climate pollution right here at home. Okay, and I'm going to tell you about our all of our tabling organizations and what they have for you. We asked these organizations to join us because they have resources specifically related to this topic, and because our goal is that you leave this evening tonight with as much as you could possibly get, and you'll know where to go for further information after the program. So Ashland News and Ashland Together over here have teamed up to help you sign up for emergency alerts on your phone if that's something you need help with. You have resources in your packet to do it on your own, but if you need help, our friends back here will be doing that for you. The Ashland Climate Collaborative is here to provide you with a toolkit to bring your neighbors together to collaborate on fire preparedness and evacuation. This is very powerful. Ashland Climate has several neighborhood climate clubs that have pioneered this work in several Ashland neighborhoods. You can also sign up for Ashland Climate's juicy monthly e-newsletter on local climate news, events, and opportunities. Okay, Ashland Chamber of Commerce is over here. They partnered with the city and AFR, Ashland Fire and Rescue, for over a decade to create, organize, and implement programs and resources to help our businesses be more resilient in the face of smoke and fire events. The Ashland Chamber.com website includes emergency preparedness toolkits and videos to help businesses, employees, and residents be better prepared in an emergency. And as a town that receives a great number of tourists, thankfully, that's something that's the role of the Chamber is really important in supporting those businesses. Also joining us today is Rogue Food Unites, a local nonprofit working to make sure people have access to nutritious meals during and after wildfires. They're here to share how to help coordinate food relief when communities are affected. Last but not least, up here in front we have Ashland Community Emergency Response Team. They've equipped members of the community to prepare for, mitigate, and recover from disasters for over 25 years. And they invite you to join the more than 1,600 Ashlanders who have attended CERT training and learn how to help yourself, your family, and your neighbors in the event of a disaster. We also have SmokeWise Ashland with resources around indoor air quality, properly how to wear a respirator and avoid smoke exposure. So all directly related to our topics tonight. So I hope you'll take time to visit with our partners after the program because they'll be sticking around as long as you stick around. So we're here for you tonight. So without further ado from me, I would like to turn this program, I would really love to turn this program over, I'm kidding, to our MC, Tara Houston. And Tara is an Ashland.news volunteer, and she's also Senior Coordinator of Education and Engagement with the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Tara is a great example of the amazing talent that we have in this community who are willing to step up to bring us together and help make Ashland the best that it can be. Please join me in welcoming your MC for the evening, Tara Houston.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's pretty incredible to see all of you in the audience today. As Lori said, my name is Tara Houston. I use she, her pronouns. And you can think of me as your voice up here. As you heard, I work for the Shakespeare Festival. I'm trained as a scenic designer and a teacher. I am not a fire expert. So think of me as your guide here and the every person representing you all up here. So my role tonight is to welcome you, to move our program along, and to help shepherd questions to our experts. To start out with, I think it's important we do a little expectation setting. We have a limited amount of time today. 2 hours is a lot of time, but it's also not that much time at all. We are not going to solve wildfire tonight. So if you came here with that expectation, I'm sorry to tell you at the very beginning, that is not going to happen tonight. Our goal tonight, though, is to help give you resources so that you know where to look to help build your plan after you leave this room. So whether you have done a lot of preparation with yourself, with your family, with your neighbors concerning wildfire, that's great. That's amazing. We need your voice in this room. But if you've done nothing, we also need your voice in this room. So welcome, regardless of where you are in terms of this process. We want to make sure that we start this night by saying wildfires are scary, right? We've got smoke in the valley today, and this conversation feels more real today than it ever has. With the wildfires that ripped through LA in the winter, with the fires that started not far away from here with a lightning storm, these dangers are in our backyard. So it's really important that we come together as a community and find our path forward. So thank you for being a part of that process. So earlier this week, I wanted to let everyone know that I understood that this was going to be difficult for some of us, and I compared it to learning to roller skate. How many people know how to roller skate in the room? Hey, pretty good. How many biking, right? Skateboards, any of those things with wheels. It was not easy when you got on that wheeled object for the first time. So if you are new to this kind of conversation, think about it like those roller skates or roller blades or skateboard or whatever in terms of learning something new. We're going to throw a lot of information at you, and it may be a little overwhelming. So know that there will be resources coming to you in your email, so you can always check back in later. Okay, let's talk about our format today. We've got two amazing speakers who are going to come and share their expertise with you, and then we're going to have some Q&A sessions in between. The bulk of the time that you'll spend with me will be in the second half of our program, where we talk about a specific wildfire scenario and talk through examples of what you might do in response to that scenario. So that's sort of to give you kind of the layout of the land. So we're going to start tonight with, questions. You were probably greeted by volunteers as you came in holding note cards. If not, you'll see some lovely volunteers around with note cards in the air. If you have questions about evacuation, if you have questions that come up related to what our guests are speaking about tonight, write that question on a note card and we'll be collecting them throughout the night. We will try to answer as many questions as possible while we're with you. Anything we don't address tonight will be followed up on in an email after tonight's event. Okay, let's get started. We're gonna pass you on to Kelly Burns. Kelly Burns is Ashland's Emergency Management Coordinator. He was a 32-year veteran firefighter and paramedic with Ashland Fire and Rescue, and he was hired into his current role in 2023. So Kelly, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm turning it over to you.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks, Tara. Here, hang on. The tall guy has problems with the microphone. Hi, Ashland. Nice to see all of you. When I go to give talks about emergency preparedness, and much of what I'm going to talk about tonight are maybe resources that you already know. Some of it, it's good to hear it again. Sometimes it's good to hear the same thing multiple times. And when I talk about these things, I usually get the same instruction before I do. Which was like when my daughters were small and mom needed to go for a while and dad was going to be left in charge of the kids. This is a story that I usually tell, and it's a personal story of mine that I think relates to where we're at right now. Mostly what they would say is, Kelly, don't scare them. So my daughters are 7 and 4 at this time, and when mom goes and then it's my turn to take charge of them, I say, do you want to go for a hike? And they go, yeah. And we live on the south side of town, and I go, great, where do you want to go? And they said, we want to go to the highest place of all. Now, in my daughter's minds, my strong, independent thinking daughter's minds, at 7 and 4, the highest place of all happens to be the Ashland Street overpass at the railroad tracks. Who here knows where that is? That's the highest place of all to a 7 and 4-year-old. And so I'm like, great, I pack up my backpack, we put some drinks and stuff, and we go. And we start hiking. We're going down the bike path because we live close by. And I'm going to take them around the curve of Clay Street where it connects into Faith, and then we're going to go up. And so I start heading that way down the street. And my girls start heading up underneath the rocks under the bridge. Now, who here knows what's under the rocks under the bridge? You raised your hand. Do you know what's under there? What do we... Yeah, sometimes transient people who need a quiet place to stay. And so before there were fences, these were when my kids were small, this is where they wanted to go. Now, as a 911 responder for decades, I've gone to calls under there where bad things happened because not all of the people that go there are nice. And so as they're saying, no, we're going to go this way, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. But I'm raising strong, independent, adventurous girls, and at some point they have their dad wrapped around their finger, so I'm like, okay, let's go. And so we start walking under the bridge. They wanted to go under the bridge, you can kind of see that section there, and then come out the other side and then go up the path, and then we'll get to the highest place of all. Great. And we're under there, and you can feel it when you're under there. It is a little too quiet. And it is a little colder, and you can feel the hackles on your neck coming up, and again, I know that it's scary, but my young daughter at 4 years old, Raquel, she's trucking along in her 4-year-old body, and she says, Daddy, I'm scared. And I go, oh, okay, Raquel, here, I'll pick you up, and I can carry you the rest of the way, and we'll get out of here. And she goes, no, I'm just scared. And she keeps trucking along. And that kind of stunned me for a moment, but I think that can relate to the time we're in right now. So you can be scared, you don't have to be fearless, but you can keep moving forward. So some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight, it's going to challenge you, especially in our exercise that we're going to do, where we're going to give you a scenario that might scare you a little bit. But we're all in this together, and as long as we work together, then we've got a better chance. We've got a better chance. So anyway, that's my little story about my kids, and I'll tell you more at the end. When I teach about evacuations, and I don't have all the answers, but I do have things that you should be paying attention to. And so I want you to consider where you're getting your information, sources of information that are out there. National Weather Service, you should be paying attention to the weather. You live in the Rogue Valley in Jackson County, and Jackson County, decades ago, was host to lots and lots of fires. And you know what we are now? We're host to lots and lots of fires. So you live in a place where you need to pay attention to the weather. So I always go to our National Weather Service. We have an office in Medford, and they're one of 8 in the nation that can do like multiple things with weather balloons and things like that. They're a great resource that we have. Look for their weather forecasts. How good were they a week ago Monday on the isolated thunder showers? They weren't that good. Okay, the weatherman isn't always right, but these are the guys that I always look at to try to forecast what I might need to know if a red flag period is coming. And if we have questions about red flag, we'll answer that. It's typically when the temperatures are high, the winds are high, and then everything's really dry. The wind, I think, is really our biggest enemy, so I'm always watching for wind forecasts for us because that's what's driving our wind-driven wildfires. Jackson Alerts, that's our Everbridge emergency mass notification system. It keeps changing its name. It's kind of like an Ashlander thing. I don't want you to care what it's called, and we'll talk about Jackson Alerts here in a minute. I just want you to get the messages, okay? And then trusted sources, which could be friends, neighbors, and even our Ashland CERT, which are going to help in everything and getting you prepared. Finally, in the 201 level of my fake university, preparing ahead of time, you're going to have go kits, and we've got a good example here. And in your packets that you receive, there's some suggestions of things that you might want to take when you have time to leave. So read those, study those, think about what applies to you. Make your plans for level 1, 2, and 3. If everyone did anything after this talk tonight, besides going home and maybe feeling a little better, I want you to make a plan for level 1, make a plan for level 2, and make a plan for level 3. And if they're the same, great. You have a simple one page then of what you're going to do. But each one requires some thought and potentially some action, and they can be a little different. Okay, so consider that. I worked with the Ashland Family YMCA. They came to me. They said, Kelly, we're so embarrassed. We don't have an evacuation plan. And we have kids up at Camp DeBoer. We have the Ashland Y facility. We have kids in Talent. We have kids in Phoenix. And we know that everybody else has a plan for this. And I said, no, not everyone has a plan for this. You're the first to approach. And so we did a level 1, level 2, level 3, and they're sharing this broadly now. And so I would say look at their website. They have the framework for it. If you want to think about it for yourself, for your business, Ashland Chamber of Commerce is here as well. Think about what you want to do level 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Finally, I want you to actually do something. I want you to do hands-on. Hands-on's a firefighter term, right? And we're going to get a little hands-on tonight with our exercise, but I want you to practice your evacuation. Set a timer. Pick a time when you're coffeeed up and ready to go, and then pack a few things in your car and take your normal route out of town and see how long it takes you to do that. And if you're like me, and I know I am, pick a second way out too. Think that your primary route might get blocked up, and what could be another way. All right, so sign up for alerts. Let's talk about that real quick. If you haven't signed up for Jackson Alerts, or formerly Citizen Alert, and formerly Everbridge, and formerly Nixle, they're all still there. You still have data, you still are signed up, but you could go in and maybe update, especially if you have a new device, a new number, and our tables back here with Ashland Together, there's some resources back there to help you. There's other text alert opt-ins that go along with alerts, and my favorites are up there. I think my top 2 are the 97520 group. There's 19,000 of you that have that. So if we have any local power outages and things like that, just advisories, I'm going to let you know. If we have say a Neal Creek fire that's next door to us but not coming our way, I'm going to let you know on the 97520, just as an advisory. And then the other one that I think my partners in Jackson County Emergency Management, very good team there now. We didn't have that in 2020. We do now, and we're working very closely with them, is the bottom one, the Jackson EVACs. That is a text alert for any evacuation notice in Jackson County. If something happens in the far northwest end of Jackson County, you'll get a text alert that says, hey, in this zone in Jackson County, there's an alert. And so I recommend that one. Our evacuation levels got straightened out after 2020 as well. And now we're all going to use the same language and the same system. Now, not every community has 3 levels of evacuation. Some have none at all. And they live in, Tornado Alley or a place that has hurricanes all the time. They don't have 3 levels like we do. I think everybody's going to fall in line because I think everybody's learning that they can catch on fire. And so all communities want some system. We're a little bit ahead of the game. It's up to us to understand it. When the state got their act together, they put together this packet that you have tonight that gives you an idea of what to do in level 1, 2, and 3. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide how that's going to work for you. But I think it's a good product, it's a good system, and we're all getting more used to it because we're getting more reps with it, right? We're getting more times to practice at it. What's the message going to look like? First, who here got messages about the Neal Creek fire? Just show of hands. Okay, good. And maybe some folks didn't. But you're starting to get used to what the evacuation notice language looks like. Now, this was a heavy lift that was coordinated between Jackson County Emergency Management, Medford, Ashland, Phoenix, Talent, Eagle Point, to try to use the same message for all evacuations. Different zones, but the same message. And this is the first time it's happened. We got it done in March. And so wherever you go in Jackson County, if you're in Medford, your evacuation notice is going to look like this. If you go to Ashland, your evacuation notice is going to look like this. And there aren't many areas that can say that they've achieved this because each agency, each city is so separately working in a silo from each other. Like, we're not doing that anymore. We host too many fires. We all have to get along. So we got that. So that's what a level 1 would look like. And if you're like me, and you know that we have how many zones in Ashland? 10, right? And we have zone 1, 2, 3, 4. What's the deal with the new names? Does anybody notice that on the message up there? What do they say? They say ASH001. Why 3 letters and 3 numbers? Well, that was done in the state of California because the state of California has a ton of zones, and not everybody can be zone 1 through 10. If you have an evacuation notice in zone 1, like, how do we know that that's Medford? How do we know that that's Ashland? How do we know that that's Butte County, zone 1, where they have host fires and evacuations all the time, so they're a good example to look at. So you had to divide it up into a new code, which means the first 3 letters is the first 3 letters of your city or your county. This is our old zone map. Super proud of our zones we published in 2021. We were the first city in the valley to do it, and pretty much the first community in Southern Oregon to do it. And Jackson County started kind of looking over our shoulder and saying, oh, what are those Ashlanders doing? Why did they do that? That looks cool. And in May of 2024, in collaboration with Jackson County and all the other cities in the valley and unincorporated areas, we divided Jackson County up into big puzzle pieces, and so your map now looks like this. And if you want to see better examples of this, I'm going to aim you towards an online tool. I think I've said this before, but the naming committee was out the week that they picked the name for this product. It's called Genesis Protect, and it's not SIS in Genesis, SYS, so yeah, someone had a clever idea. But you look this up online, the Genesis Protect mapping product is used all over the West Coast, and now we're starting to use it more too. It's actually very quick. My own GIS team, we have GIS maps, but it seems like it takes them longer to load different layers. The Genesis Protect is fast and easy to scroll. You can see all of Jackson County. You can see all of Northern California. And every zone that has an evacuation order under it, if it's a green, level 1, it's green. If it's a level 2, it's yellow. So very good product. I want to aim you towards that. I don't have the links for you on it and stuff too. You can find it. I want you to find it. I'm not going to give you all the answers. Let's talk about what it means so you can get some better ideas as you make your plan tonight when we do our exercise. Level 1 means this: be aware of danger in the area. There's danger in the area somewhere. It's not on you. Oh. I'm just seeing if you're awake. All right, check in with neighbors and family in a level 1. Like, hey, did you get this? Are you seeing this? Where'd you get your information from? You need to be working with your community, be working with neighbors, friends, family, letting them know what your plan might be. Have your emergency plan and go kit. You're going to work on that tonight. So you're going to have some form of emergency plan by the time you leave tonight. That's your homework assignment. Have your go kit ready. Some people have go kit shame. They've heard that over and over, and they're just like, I don't have my go kit. Throw a few things into an available bag or sack and put it by your door, and that's the beginnings of your go kit. It'll actually make you feel better, and it will reduce some of the stress you feel when we get inundated with smoke and other wildfires and things. You'll at least have a start. Take small bites out of this. You'll get there, I promise. Anyway, so those are the things for level 1. Let's talk about level 2 be set. The Neal Creek fire, interesting test for everybody in the zones. We started level 2s in the Neal Creek fire because it was close. What does it mean? It means there's significant danger in the area. Yeah, there's fire. We were lucky in that one, right? Why were we lucky? The winds. The winds were this gentle southerly breeze blowing to the south, away from town. Let's make that happen all the time for fires that occur on that end of town. For level 2, follow your emergency plan and grab and load your go kit. That's a good time to, like, the bag that you just threw some extra clothes and sweats and a book in, like, put that in your vehicle or where it is that you expect to get into to go. Some people have electric bikes. Some people have those weird one-wheel things. I'd say try to find somebody with a car if you don't have a car. Continue to check trusted sources, which would include the city websites, our law enforcement sites, Jackson County Sheriff's, Jackson County Emergency Management, Ashland.news as well. We're trying to work with our local radio stations too, so that when we have something like that, we can partner with them, give them the message, have them broadcast it. And then conditions could change rapidly. Don't wait for us to say go. You don't have to. If you're practicing your plan and thinking, gosh, the fire feels kind of near and I feel a little stressed, I'd feel a lot better getting out of the way, you can go. Go ahead. Tell your friends where you're going, okay? Go now. Let's do the scary one. Go now means there's no time. Go now means there's extreme danger. Leave immediately. Don't stop to grab things. When you're in a situation like this, and there probably are some folks in the room that have had to evacuate before, or have friends that have evacuated, or have had experiences during evacuations, horrible things that have happened and stuff too. So it's going to trigger you. You can breathe through this, but you need to be able to keep moving forward, just like my daughter, okay? Drive carefully, turn on headlights. I actually like that one too. Be visible when you're trying to get out. Like, stay visible so that people can see you, because there's chances that smoke could black out lots of things. So take your time going out of there. So another level 3 notice, which I've talked about before, is if you see one of these show up, a sheriff's officer or a police officer or someone on their PA that's an officer that's saying, go now, evacuate. That is a level 3 notice without getting it on your cell phone. That's a level 3. If someone knocks on your door and they're a police officer and they say, hey, there's fire coming, you need to go, that is a level 3. That means you got to go. That make sense? All right. Now, if you want to graduate to the 301 level, I want you to practice your route and your timing. I want you to think about the wind direction, because that can tell you what's driving the fire and which direction it's driving it, okay? You can feel it on your body, and I think my friend Charisse is going to talk a bit more about that. Because we live in a valley and we primarily have a north and a south way to get out of it. We do have a couple here in the east, Dead End Memorial, Highway 66, potentials. If you go up the back roads of Talent, Wagner Creek Road goes all the way up. There are other ways, but think about a path north and think about a path south. There's places that you could drive 15 minutes to the south and 15 minutes to the north and be out of dangerous way, so that then you could reconnect in with family and friends, say, hey, this is where I'm at. Remember when I told you about my plan where I was going to go to the Vista viewpoint there, about 10 miles south of Ashland on the freeway, off to the right. I'm there. I'm good. Think about those. And then finally, my 2 next projects are nearby open spaces. I want you to learn your town. There's no metric, no standardized metric for the wide enough space in a suburban area that can keep you safe from flames if the roads get blocked up. But this is a concept and an idea whose time has come, and we're trying to make this planning process as fast as we can, so that if you know, here's what you need to do, because we don't have it. I'm not giving it to you right now, but I'm telling you, I want you to look at open spaces in our town and go, if I got stuck, if my car broke down, if power poles fell in the way of my evacuation route and I really couldn't get out, there's this grassy irrigated field over here with green grass, not yellow tall grass, because that could actually hurt you. But an open field area or a parking lot or something where you could hold up and stay safe from a fire. And we saw that in the campfire in Paradise. I need you to learn your town. I need you to see those places, and we're going to keep pushing that. Finally, I want to do the community wildfire evacuation drill. This will be an actual practice drill, and I've got a lot of community partners and agencies that are willing to step in and help pull this off as a community-wide drill. I'm going to be releasing information, registration, all the maps you'll need and directions you'll need for it and stuff too in the first week of September, so I don't have that all for you tonight, but I want you to put October 11th on your calendar. It's a Saturday. You'll be off work. You should be around. It's also outside of any other big event in town and stuff too, so let's all practice on that. Okay. That's some evacuation readiness 201. There's a lot more that we could riff on and talk about, but I want to just leave you with this final thought. These are my daughters, and this is what happens at bath time when Dad's in charge. And Mom is usually pretty upset with the big splashy mess we make because we do get a little rowdy. But I wanted you to know that we did survive our visit to the highest place of all, even though we were scared. And we had a lot of fun doing it. And what I want you to take back again tonight is that you don't have to be fearless to make steps to take care of yourself and your friends and help. So I'm going to turn this over to Charisse now. She's going to give you some reality checks on things, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I'd like to introduce Charisse Sidoriak, who's coming up next. She's actually the person who really kicked this process off about a year ago-ish this time. We had a conversation about wildfire safety, and that's the genesis of us being here today. Charisse is a retired federal employee with 35 years of experience in managing fires and natural and cultural resources. Her countless hours of work in our community, including her work on the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, are a testament to her belief in community care. Thank you so much for volunteering and sharing your time and expertise with us, Charisse. I'll turn it over to you.
So my task this evening is to talk about all the things that could go wrong. I'm sorry to be the wet blanket. Kelly is always so entertaining and informative, and no matter how we prepare, go bags, kits, know our route, etc., evacuations are difficult. And I suspect with climate change and the repeated disasters that we are facing, that we will, all of us, at one point or other, have to evacuate, some many times. It's a very traumatic experience. So how do you prepare in other ways than the go bag? I want to share something about my past, my little story. I was in a wildfire 21 years ago and had to evacuate. I happened to be a member of the team that was making the decision about whether to evacuate or not, so I was at the briefing. And I went, oh my God, this is going to be bad. But they didn't call for an evacuation, the decision makers. And the point I'm trying to make here is that I felt uncomfortable, but they didn't. Feeling uncomfortable is very personal, and making a decision to evacuate a whole community is a major decision because it's dangerous. So, and second guessing whether you should say go or no go is a tough decision to make, and I feel for the people that have to do it. Anyway, because I felt uncomfortable, I called my husband and asked him to get our 8 pets and my 12-year-old daughter and some things in the van. There was no 1, 2, 3, ready, set, go system in place in New Mexico 21 years ago. They evacuated to a neighboring community, and the next day at noon, the entire community was evacuated as the fire roared into town. People had 15 minutes to go. That could have been prevented by the system that we now have in place, but we didn't have it there. So that's a big win. I I went down to that next community to be with my family, and at 1 in the morning, we got another evacuation order for the entire county to evacuate. That was a big one. The trauma I felt of exiting my house and seeing things that I would never see again, because you have to put your mind in that mindset when you're leaving. I had to witness my friends going through that and help them evacuate. Then all of us piled into our cars, and thousands of people went out on the one road exit off the hill. This was in Los Alamos, New Mexico. And it took hours. Then everybody dispersed, and nobody knew where anyone was. There were no cell phones those days. We had to find shelter. What do thousands and thousands of people do to find shelter? It was pretty tough. So these are parts of evacuation that you should also be thinking of. Emergency managers do their best to try to prepare you, but this kind of stuff, they can't help you with. You have to have a plan, and I'm going to bring up some of these what-if statements about that. So preparedness is a process. It's not done because you put your go bag by the door and put a few things in it. My goal is to raise your awareness of evacuation challenges, help you become more self-reliant in making those decisions, and helping your community out by caring about other people during the evacuation event. I will be posing some what-if questions to get you thinking about the things you may not have thought about before. By pre-thinking things through, you are in a far better position during the emergency to take the right action, make the right decision. I'll also suggest some things that you can do to make sense of your surroundings. You don't need to wait to be told. You can read the environment yourself to figure things out. And some ideas about responding with humanity. The other thing that can be really surprising is that a lot of people don't get the alerts. They don't know what to do. They're not at home. They don't have the means to evacuate. Roads are blocked, obviously a big one. For those of you who might have watched the news in 1992, I believe, when the Oakland Hills fire took place, there are videos of cars wandering in this thick soup of smoke and darkness in the middle of the day. That's what it's like when a fire is coming into your community. You lose a sense of direction because it's so smoky. Sometimes debris is flying under the strong winds, utility poles are falling, and many, many other surprises. Evacuation is a fraught experience. So even if you are prepared, things can go wrong. Here are some what-if statements that I have heard from community members. I was a lead researcher for the Community Wildfire Protection Plan for Ashland. And I went around and I talked to people, knocked on their doors and asked them about how they felt about wildfire, how they plan to evacuate. There's some other members of my volunteer team here. Thank you, Chelsea. How many of you have thought about what's going to happen if there's no internet? The satellite goes down. You're not getting phone connections. I heard one person say there's the messaging system, the note that you said everybody is now using, was confusing to them. I was out at the farmer's market, and while I was gone, my home burned down. They didn't have their go bag with them. I interviewed one individual who was 14 at the time of the Alameda fire. He was home alone, and his parents were in Medford. They freaked out. Another person I interviewed was sleeping. He didn't know anything was going on. Fortunately, a neighbor knocked on his door. A lot of people think that they can escape with their car, with everything they value in it. It's highly unlikely unless you leave before the fire occurs because of that traffic problem. What if you have a friend, a loved one, a relative on the other side of town and you can't reach them? It's really important to think about these things and figure out options now before the event occurs so that your mind is actually able to function. That is really a much more detailed planning process, but asking what if questions today could save you tomorrow. Here's an example where a what if question was not asked early on by the mother of Christina Taft. This is in Paradise, California, when the Camp Fire came through. Christina was in the house with her mother, Victoria, and she said, I feel uncomfortable. I want to go. I have a life ahead of me. I want to leave. And her mother refused to leave because nobody had told her, advised her to evacuate. It's very important that if you feel uncomfortable, you make a decision based on personal feeling rather than an evacuation notice, because it may never come. So how do you make sense of what's happening and can be essentially self-reliant and empowered? If something feels wrong, trust your gut. Use simple observations to make smart, life-saving decisions. For example, it's hot and dry. Right now, it's one of those times. And the winds are strong. What should you do? Where is the fire if a fire is started? Where is the nearest reachable open space? And then finally, what am I capable of doing at this time? Maybe I had surgery, maybe I'm not feeling well. All of these things need to be thought through on a regular basis during fire season. Kelly mentioned some of the areas that you might think about in terms of accessible refuge areas or open spaces. Parking lots. They don't have a lot of trees typically, but parking lots with vegetated islands can burn, so you want to stay away from that. Large irrigated lawns, schoolyards, fields, and other places with minimal flammable material. Let's take a look at a picture that might help you appreciate what I'm trying to say here. This is a picture of the Alameda fire, and it's early on. If you were seeing something like this happen and there was no event or no alert or announcement, what would you think? You could tell a lot by just looking at the direction of the smoke column. It indicates which way the wind is blowing. If you can't feel it yourself, but you can see the column going in a certain direction, you know you don't want to go there. Also, it can help you define where the fire is, because you don't necessarily want to go toward the fire either. Another feature of the landscape that you can pay attention to is the slope. Fire moves quickly upslope. You don't want to run upslope to get away from a fire. This picture shows flatlands. It's a wind-driven fire when it's on flatlands. But one of the things that's in the bottom of the picture are what I call dry, flashy fuels. Dry grass, blackberries. If you're trying to get away from the fire, go away from dry, flashy fuels. Making sense of your environment empowers you, makes you self-reliant. Pay attention to that, and also watch for alerts. And finally, try to remain calm and look out for others. When the alarm sounds, who are you thinking of? But before that, who may need you during an evacuation? Think about that in advance. One of the facts about Ashland is that many of our community members are elderly and disabled. There is no way that fire staff can answer a 911 call for everybody in the town that needs help. That's a really unfortunate fact, but it's true. You need to be able to take care of yourself by thinking in advance and planning in advance by considering what other people need. Your biggest asset is yourself, by the way. And one way to avoid panic is to go through these what-if scenarios, and we're going to go through one next.
Thank you, Charisse. Okay, as promised, we're going to take a break and see if folks have questions. So our first question, and thanks for joining us up here, Ty, because I think you may have some insight on this. Our first question is, what should you do about road congestion, specifically during evacuation? What would your recommendations be?
Thank you, Tara. My name's Ty. I'm the police chief. That's a very big question. I'm not going to have a perfect answer for it. A lot of this evacuation topic is just dependent on the situation. During Alameda, we had a traffic nightmare. It turned out that we got really lucky because of the way that the fire progressed and the way that traffic problems on I-5 developed. So North Main Street was basically at a standstill, and in that situation, that was okay. I'm not saying that that's what we're hoping for, but in that unique situation, there was nothing else to be done and everything was okay. I would echo what Charisse says, that each person in an evacuation situation has to take their own initiative. They have to be responsible for themselves. And Kelly and I and other people will try to give guidance and general suggestions about go this way or do that, or this zone stay put for now if you are comfortable doing so, but this zone should evacuate in this direction immediately. But in the end, for any evacuation situation, for any traffic congestion situation, again, as Cherie said, play the what if game. If this is my evacuation route, Kelly mentioned having multiple routes. If route 1 is congested, what's my second route? And I will echo again what Cherie said. When I was training new police officers, I would say, you know, if we're getting out and we're about to go into a bank or a convenience store or something, I'd say take a minute and just run through your head what would happen if you walked through the door of that bank and there was something going on. Just imagine how you would react to that. So that way, when that does happen to you, because it very likely is going to happen to you, that's not the first time your brain has processed that. And so run through all the what if scenarios. My main point of egress is out North Main Street, but that's clogged like it was in Alameda. Do I live in an area where maybe I can use the emergency North Mountain entry ramp onto I-5 if that's been activated? Just play out every eventuality in your mind. That's the best answer I have, because that's such a big question and it's going to be dependent on the situation as it's presented in that moment.
I actually couldn't have said it better. And then I would just recommend that if there is time and we are at a level 2, that's probably time that it's okay to go. Because the sooner you go, then I think the better chance you're going to have. And traffic may be slow, but in a level 2, you should have some more time. The air should be clearer for you to go. In a level 3 and no notice, we don't have a lot of answers for that. I can remember one of our fire chiefs saying something off the cuff about how in Ashland we want one firefighter for every citizen so that everybody can feel safer and stuff too, and that's just not realistic. So one of the points of our talk tonight and why you are here is so that you can plan a little more and get used to the idea of like, this is the direction I'm going to go, this is the second direction I might try to go. So really think about that. Take that home tonight.
To avoid traffic problems, leave early.
There you go.
Yes.
But to the point, thank you so much. I want to clarify something. There was a question that I received. Did you say smoke always travels downhill? The answer to that is no. I believe the point Charisse was trying to make is that fuel or a fire on a hill, on a slope, goes faster. If you could clarify that, does that?
I didn't really hear the question.
So the question was, did you say smoke always travels downhill?
No. Smoke travels in the direction that there are winds. Generally, winds are blowing upslope during the heat of the day because air rises as it's heated. And that's why slopes cause fires to burn faster, because they're preheating the fuels above them and then moving up. Wind-driven fires are very common in terms of fire spread direction, they drive the direction of fires on flat land. If you had no wind, it would probably just be a column. But with wind, more fuels are engaged in the direction the fire is going, and smoke goes in the direction that the air is flowing.
Thank you so much. Will a level 3 alert, a level 3 evacuation notice tell you what direction to leave?
Yeah, so I'm the emergency manager for the city of Ashland, something we didn't have in the Alameda fire. So my main role is to get you the best and quickest information as possible. If we have a level 3 go now, I'm going to add something of like where the fire is located. And then again, because you're going to do your homework, you're going to know some roads, some streets, areas, zones, and then you're going to be like, okay, let's think about Alameda for a second, right? We didn't have zone 10 in the Alameda fire, which is that quiet village northwest end of town. So if the fire was on the northwest end of town like that and we said zone 10, do you think tonight you might know where that is? Maybe a little better. If you don't, that's fine, you're going to learn it. So I'm going to try to give you as much as I can with what I know, and I'm working to push that information out. I'm getting it from law enforcement and fire, streets, electric department, all of our infrastructure that's going to be involved to try to help keep the flow going. So as I get the information, I'm getting it to you, and now that you have someone that can do that, you're going to get it quicker than you would if you don't have one. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for one more question, so I'm going to pose this one. Do you think a family should pack themselves into one car? It might be more comfortable or efficient to go in multiple cars. What would your recommendations be?
These are all recommendations. You can do what fits for you, and some recommendation is to decrease traffic congestion, just take the one. But again, it's on you to make that happen. If you have a classic Corvette that you don't want to get burned up in the fire, then maybe you want to take that. But maybe those things can be replaced. Recommendation sometimes is just to take one vehicle. You'll see that in some of the literature, but again, it is your choice. So,
Can I sneak in one more thing there on it's your choice? We can, Kelly or I or somebody can say we're in a level 3. I can even say I'm ordering you to leave. In the end, nobody's going to make you leave. No, there's not a police officer or firefighter that's going to go in there. What we're going to do is give you the information and say, we really think you should leave now. But in the end, and I'm just going to be blunt, I'm not trying to be scary. We're going to be fearless like Kelly's daughter. It's on you. You have to make these decisions. And nobody's going to take you kicking and screaming out of your house, because if we stop for every person that is putting up a fuss, we're not going to get down the road to help out the next 50 people. So it's on each of us that are part of the community to make these decisions.
I'll just share a real quick story. In the fire that I was talking about on my street, one person chose to stay to save his accordion collection. He was the only person that nearly died during the fire from inhaling smoke and heat. So when you make that choice, recognize that you're putting yourself in danger.
This is moving into our wildfire scenario exercise. So this is our scenario. It's Friday, September 19th, and it's a hot 98-degree day in Ashland. There's a warm east wind that's blowing from east to west at 20 to 25 miles per hour with gusts up to 40 miles per hour. At 10 a.m., a call for a fire south of Ashland is called in. Fire and police resources are responding. This may look familiar. This is our recent Neal Creek fire. This is sort of the conditions that we're talking about, right? So south of town, but the wind is different than it was with Neal Creek. So think for a moment, where would you be at 10 a.m. on a Friday? Maybe if your life is specific by month, what would you be doing on a September 19th Friday at 10 a.m.? While you're thinking through that, I want you to take a look here at the conditions from above. The shading is very light, but you can see that the evacuation zones for Ashland are put onto this map. What I think is important to say about the maps that we'll show in this scenario is that these would very unlikely ever be available during a fire event. So this is a model only. If you can think to any time that you've been notified of a fire in our area, we don't get this kind of mapping until later. So we're using this only for the purposes of this exercise. At 10:30 a.m., a public message is sent out. A level 2 be set. This is what it would look like. You can see the text here, right? Be set to evacuate from the following areas. And you can see that all of Ashland is notified in this be set. Now, in your group, what I want you to do is just talk about how you would react to receiving this notice. What do you think you should do? And if you have questions that you would need answered right now to help you prepare for that evacuation, we're here to answer those questions. So again, note cards, raise them up in the air, and we will try and answer them as we go. We're going to take 2 minutes and talk in our groups about these questions. Okay, let's move into the next step here. We're going to take a moment and we're going to answer a couple of questions that have come up multiple times. The first is, what should we do if you don't have a car?
I've been asked this more than a few times, and there isn't yet like a community rideshare that's been set up locally here in Ashland, but it's time. If you don't have a car or access to a car, because some of this is on you, you need to find someone that does and would be willing to work with you on that.
There's no easy answer to what do I do if I don't have a car. Tonight is an example of what we would suggest. Find a neighbor, find a friend, find someone that you can trust, find multiple people that you can trust to help you make a plan for the what ifs. So know that this is the beginning of a conversation for you with people who have access to transportation, who can help you in case of a disaster.
And maybe one or two things more. In the Alameda event, there were people without cars, but one of the things that I talk about sometimes when we talk about the Alameda fire, very personal to me as well, is that there were people helping people, and while the cops saved a lot more than firefighters, because they were getting to people to tell them to evacuate, and they were throwing them in their cars sometimes, but there were other people that were like, just hop in my truck and I'll get you out of here and stuff too. So while that happens in an emergency, we can plan for that ahead of time. So really, you have more agency than you know. And Ty wanted to say something.
I was just going to connect back to Alameda as well, and there were several incidents of wheelchair-bound people that, and I agree 100% with what you said, that not everybody in the middle of an emergency can call 911. If you need to, and there were several instances of wheelchair-bound people reaching out, somehow getting in touch with emergency services, and then that word getting back to police officers and firefighters, and police officers going to that person's house and loading them up and their wheelchair, their mobility device, and getting them to a safe area. So yes, make arrangements beforehand, and in the middle of it, if you really have no other option, then exercise the options that you can, reach out in an appropriate way, and see if somebody can come around and pick you up, because we had a lot of heroics going on that day with people in uniforms doing that exact thing.
If you can't find anybody to help you and you've been told to leave, I'm not sure that the 911 system would be able to evacuate everybody in a level 2. So start looking for a place where you think you could survive the fire, the open space.
Okay, let's get back into it. Before we go, we're all going to take one big deep breath together. Are you ready? Let's breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for a moment and breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to go back into it. So You can see and smell smoke blowing into Ashland around noon. There are reports of structures catching fire near the Oak Knoll neighborhood at the south end of town. This is what the fire now looks like. This is a model 2 hours into that fire. The red represents the areas that are actively burning. The yellow represents embers. Those embers are likely to be blown by the wind into multiple directions and can actually be driven forward by the heat of the fire as well. You can see that the wind direction is indicated here, basically blowing right along the line of the valley. At noon, a public message is sent out. This is a level 3, go now. So this is for all of Ashland's evacuation zones. And our questions are the same. What will you do when you receive this message? What are you thinking about? And are there questions that you need answered right now to help you plan your evacuation? And we'll again take 2 minutes to discuss. And if it's helpful to see this sort of in context of the map so you can sort of pinpoint where you are, we'll leave this here for the 2 minutes. Thank you. We're going to start addressing some of the questions that folks have given us. And I have a stack, there's more, asking questions about I-5, the entrance ramp, if there will be more entrance ramps added, you know where we're headed. If we can talk about I-5 and how to access it.
Yeah, post the Alameda fire, our ODOT team, and they're actually very good, Jeremiah Griffin and Bob Harshman, and they came to the city and said, hey, we can't ever do it quite like this again. So they installed the North Mountain escape ramp. It's just a little gravel spit that goes from North Mountain onto I-5 South, but it has to be gated and it has to be controlled with ODOT in partnership with the City of Ashland, with Ashland Police, Ashland Fire, Ashland Street Department, Ashland Electric Department, when we have an event where that ramp would be beneficial to open. So just like, think about the Alameda, did we need to open the North Mountain escape ramp for the Alameda? No. So not every fire will need it, but for an incident that we would need that ramp opened, ODOT's gonna be the one to open that ramp. Now it can't just be Joe Citizen opening it, because you're going on to I-5 where the speed limits are 65 miles an hour. And so we have to control the right-hand lane ahead of time and put signs and cones out there so that people that are driving out on the gravel can get out safely and then can evacuate. So we don't have, somebody else was asking me earlier about radio control. Why can't it be radio control, Bluetooth, like open it up automatically and stuff too? We don't have that right now. We don't have that ability to do it right now. So, but what we do have is multiple agencies that are now trained to do it. So if ODOT fails, which I don't think they're going to this time, then Ashland Police, Ashland Streets, Ashland Public Works, Ashland Electric, Ashland Fire, we have multiple people trained that can set that up. And that's the best we have right now. There is an idea to add more ramps. When I asked Jeremiah Griffin about this, he's like, you know, some of the way that the bridges are and the slope that goes down to the freeway, like it's an engineering nightmare to try to put those in, but there is an additional one that could be put in. And one of the things that I really liked about Jeremiah, he said, is it doesn't hurt to keep asking about it. So yes, I want to put more in because I want more places that we can get out of town if we need it. So just know I'm pushing that and doing my very best.
So I'm asking a question, because I ask hard questions, of when people think about the North Mountain ramp from the community, who's really likely to benefit from it? The people who live around there. You just heard this scenario where it's going to take some time to get it open. The rest of the community, if I was living outside of North Mountain, would not count on that ramp. And the evacuation study showed that it only shortened the evacuation time for the city, which is 4 hours, by 10 minutes. So be very careful about thinking that as a magic exit point.
And we have a few questions that have asked about, you know, how seriously should we take alerts? Well, and, in one case, someone got an alert for a fire that was on the other side of I-5 and miles away from them. Again, I just can't emphasize enough, to quote Charisse poorly, follow your gut, right? I used to live in hurricane territory in Louisiana, and the same recommendation would be made. They can't tell you whether you have to evacuate or not. What is your comfort level? If your gut tells you to leave, get in your car and go before the roads are completely clogged. So take them seriously. I would. I do. I follow the weather apps. I've got the alerts on my phone. Every tool that I have available, I use. And I can't recommend that enough to other folks. How seriously do you take them is up to you. But hopefully through the conversation we're having tonight, you'll have a better sense of sort of where your comfort level lies.
Okay, this is a good place for me to jump in on something that I want to make sure gets said. When Alameda happened, the Ashland Police Department happened to have 11 police officers and maybe one community service officer, but 11 or 12 people on duty that could go out and respond. That's because I was on duty and the deputy chief and the sergeant, or the detective sergeants and the administrative sergeant. And so what normally would have been a, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're lucky if you got 3 Ashland police officers on duty. So for Alameda, we had an unusually large ability to put personnel into first Quiet Village and then Valley View and then Talent, in conjunction with the Talent Police, who also had kind of an artificially inflated, because it's at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. Same thing with the Phoenix Police and the Medford Police and the Central Point and the Veterans Affairs Police and the Sheriff's Department and the State Police. Everybody came out. All told, 180 some police officers came out in response to that. That is incredible, and it's also not always going to be the case. So if anybody is looking at Alameda and saying that there were 180 police officers running around with their lights and sirens going, banging on doors and getting on their PAs, and so that's what I'm waiting for, when the truth is at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, if that's when the disaster strikes, there's actually just 3 people on duty in Ashland, and maybe one of them is in Medford lodging somebody. So you better pay attention to that alert, because it's not necessarily going to be that a uniformed police officer or a firefighter is banging on your door, because we just don't have that many people to do it.
Okay. We have a couple of really big questions. I'm going to start with, what is our school evacuation plan?
In fact, after we created the YMCA plan, where we did a level 1, 2, and 3, I've been working with our administrative staff at the school district, because I think my kids are near and dear to my heart too, and I want them to have a plan. And I don't think our superintendent is here tonight.
He is.
Oh, he is?
I'm throwing him right under the bus.
Great, a school bus. And so I know that our district is doing the framework of a level 1, level 2, level 3, so that they have plans and destinations for kids and how to connect them with parents and stuff too. I don't know if they have all the answers for it, but I do know that they have the framework, and what I have reviewed looks way better than it used to. And now we just have to practice it, because I want to practice it.
Thanks so much, Kelly. We have several questions about what to do if alerts don't go through on your phone. So if your phone is in silent, if it's in airplane mode, if the power is out. What are your recommendations around, I can't get an alert?
Well, one quick thing is that with the Everbridge system, the Jackson Alert system, if it's at night, there is a feature in any message that I send for a critical message. There's a little software click button that I hit that will override your silence feature. So those of you that want to keep it on silent, you can do that, and just know I can push past it with any of the messages, any of the Jackson County messages. But it won't override airplane mode, thank you. So at least there's one thing that we can do. And ultimately, again, if it's a red flag warning period for us, if it's high winds, if it's like weather right now, don't keep your phone on silent. It behooves you to sleep light and just be more ready. What was the other one? Oh, if the power goes out. Yeah, what if the satellites go down? What if the powers go out? I think Charisse riffed on this a bit for you all. What can you tell? Who are you talking to then? Who have you connected in with? Have you checked in with them? Hey, is your power out too? Oh, crud, our power is out. Is your cell phone working? No, okay. How can you solve this? Because you can feel the wind. You can smell the smoke. All right. You can walk outside, yeah.
Great, thank you all so much. There's a question about what we would do to aid tourists. We are a tourist economy. What are the plans around folks that are here short term?
I actually have an answer for this too. Sorry for hogging the mic, you guys. So Oregon Shakespeare Festival, they have a lot of folks that travel from out of town. And what I'm promoting for them is to do the text-only alerts. So texting 888-777 to 975, sorry. I said that backwards, getting ahead of myself. I want you to text our zip code 97520 to 888-777. Any emergency alerts that we have, evacuation alerts, will be sent through that text alert. If you are just a tourist visiting here and you do that, you will get those messages while you're here. And if you leave Ashland and you don't want to hear from us again, you text STOP to that message and you're taken off of the list. So that's one really cool thing for tourists. I don't know, I think a lot of tourists visit here and they want to know what's going on in Ashland, so some people keep that.
But I've recommended that for family that's visiting from out of town as well. While they're with us, we remind them, we have a sticky note on our refrigerator. And then when they leave, they know that they can just text STOP and stop receiving those alerts.
Getting some, getting maps of our zones into the hotels, the Airbnbs, rental properties, as well as the restaurants and businesses and stuff too. I know I've been working with the chamber and I'm just trying to push that. Like, wouldn't it be great when you walk into a restaurant to see, oh, I'm in zone 8 right now. Okay, well that's good to know.
Tell your neighbors, tell your friends. There have been a few questions about whether we're sharing our slide deck, if we are sharing this information, and the answer is yes. If you registered for this event and gave us your email address, you will receive a link to a recording of this event, as well as the slide deck and any links that we've mentioned. So all of the amazing organizations that have come together, their contact information will be in there, as well as a recording of this event, and hopefully any other questions that are outstanding at the end of the night.
A response to one more group that hasn't been mentioned yet, and that is commuters, people who work here or shop here but live elsewhere. They're not really tourists per se, but the same advice would be to employers should give this information to their employees so that they also are getting the alerts. 10 a.m. on a Friday means that there are going to be people who are working in town that need to know what's going on.
And, you know, I saw a note from someone who's from Medford. I live in Talent, so I'm outing myself as a non-Ashlander who works in Ashland. So as you say, Charisse, I get notifications from all of the zones near us. So I put in the zip code for my home, but I've also put in the zip code for where I work, and I put in the zip code for Medford in case I'm at Costco. We don't know, right? So my recommendation is think about the places you go most often and try and cover that map. Start to learn more about the places around you that you frequent. Okay, on that note, we're gonna go back in. So it is now 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The fire has spread through the center of Ashland, lighting available fuels and structures. Some structures in the path of the fire burn while others do not. It remains 0% contained in spite of the efforts of fire resources. This is a map of what that would look like. So you can see that the fire has gone through the center of town and embers are up into the mountains to the sides of the city. This is pretty catastrophic. I mean, it gives me chills just to look at this. So if you're feeling the same, you're not alone. So let's take a breath together again, if you're into it. Let's breathe in for 4. So in, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna hold it for a moment. And out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Part of the reason I keep bringing up breathing is this is actually science, so if you think it's just woo-woo, I'm here to tell you it's more than woo-woo. If you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, and breathe out for 4 seconds, you're helping to reset your nervous system. All of us, when we're in panic, have a portion of our brain that gets all lit up. And when we are in that state of worry and panic, we are not our best decision-making selves. So when you feel yourself in that place of stress or anxiety, this breathing technique that we've done together is a great one to keep practicing because it helps to lower that stress level and helps to get you back into the thinking part of your brain, not just that lizard runaway part of your brain. So hold that in your toolkit of ways to make things better. So we just did something really hard together. We just imagined that our city caught fire. We just imagined that our neighborhoods had been changed forever. We've just imagined what we might be doing with family members, friends, neighbors, to try and save our lives and the lives of the people around us. By thinking through this, we've just imagined that we can do hard things together. And that as we continue to imagine how we can work together, the fear actually degrades. The more times you go through and solve your way out of a dangerous situation, the more tools you have in your kit, the more scenarios you've played out, and the more resources you have at a time where it's very difficult to make decisions. So hopefully, this is the first time you go through a scenario like this. But let's keep it in the exercise realm as long as possible and make sure that you're encouraging your friends and neighbors to go through these scenarios with you. What would you do if you were at a friend's house? What would you do if you were at church? What would you do if you were at your book club? Go through these scenarios. The more we talk about it, the less scary it gets. So let's move into the next part of our evening. We've got about half an hour of time left together, and we're going to take this time to debrief together. So we've been answering questions all along. If more questions have come up, make sure you keep sending them our way. We're going to talk about the takeaways that we want you to take on home with you, and hopefully give you some suggestions on what to do next. So to start next, I'm going to have Kelly come up and talk a little bit about a community scenario survey that he would like you to fill out.
Sure, I can do it from here. So because Ashland, we make kind of a big noise here in our little town, right? We've attracted the attention of researchers, and so there's been a few community surveys that have been put out. There's one hanging on the walls back there. It's a blue sheet of paper. It has a QR code. If you have a camera on your phone, talk to a young person, they can teach you how to use a QR code. But it'll take you to a survey that really asks you these questions like, what are you gonna do if you receive a level 3? What we did tonight. It's gonna ask you those questions, and then it'll have prompts for you to answer. If we get more people to respond to this, then this research then gets published and shared with the world. So I encourage you, if you want to take a moment to do that, and it's another thought exercise for you to think about what you would do, and please just look for them. They're on the back there in the blue. Does that make sense? We good? Okay.
So we've got a couple of upcoming opportunities that we want to share a little more information about. The first will be on August 21st. This is an insurance crisis Zoominar. We don't have all of the details for it yet, but since you're here, we thought we would tell you about it. So keep your eye out on trusted news sources. This will be posted on the City of Ashland events calendar. You'll find information about it at Ashland.news. So keep your eyes peeled. I'm interested. I know a lot of folks in the community will be. The next thing we want to tell you about is the community evacuation drill. This will be happening, as Kelly mentioned earlier, on October 11th, and that starts at 9:30? 9:30. At 9:30. Again, more information will be coming out about this closer to September, so keep your eyes out about that. And this is a way for us to, again, come together as a community and find out how we do our best job of saving one another. Okay, so we now have a block of time to answer questions. I've got a few collected up here, but if you've got more questions that you want to have answered, please, please reach out to the folks that have the note cards that are getting passed around. So there have been quite a few questions about alerts and evacuations. I do want to share that the table that's to your right as you look at the exit, Ashland Together and Ashland.news can help you make sense of all of the different alerts and apps you might want to add to your phone. So there is a group of folks back there that can help you. There have been some questions also about watch duty. What I can say about watch duty is it is a volunteer-run operation. So there are folks who cannot recommend it standing on the stage with me today, but it is a source of information. And if you are interested in that, the folks back at the Ashland Together and Ashland.news table can help you put that on your phone. If you don't have access to a cell phone, our recommendation is to get familiar with these websites. Get them on your computer if you have access to one, or make a friend who has a computer or a tablet or something that can access this information. Being aware of what's happening with our weather and other alerts that might be happening nearby is really crucial to safety. So finding a way to have access to that is key. So there's another question about how to plan an evacuation route based on circumstances. So one of the questions we had is, what if there are multiple fires in the area? What would your recommendation be? And how can you make the best decision if you don't feel like you have all of the information?
Wow. Yeah, that is a really challenging question, and nobody up here has the answer. But what we are trying to get you to do is understand the surrounding environment. When you say that there are a lot of fires around, where are they located? How do you know where they're located? I was trying to point that out. If you see the smoke column and the direction that the wind is going, that tells you a lot. If the fire is, let's say, on the other side of the valley and the winds are from the east and it's not coming toward Ashland, maybe that's something you should think about not evacuating toward. I also tell people something that I don't think the authorities usually tell people is, when you see a fire, what are you going to do? I've asked this of a lot of people without any prompting. And they say, go away from the fire. Where is away from the fire? Typically, people have this automatic response that says they're running away from a source. Well, that's going in front of the fire, theoretically. Or how can you go to the back of a fire? How do you get there? So I advise thinking about going at right angles. That might mean that you don't get to I-5 right away, but you might find a path to it. In any case, think about right angles instead of in front of or behind, because those are both danger zones. Now, this is my personal advice. I don't know what the authorities will say.
I'd like to add a little bit to that and take something from a first responders seminar that Kelly put together, and one of the keynote speakers at it was the sheriff of Butte County, California. Butte County has seen more than its fair share of disasters, and the sheriff down there is expert in these situations. And Sharice said, nobody up here has the answer to that, and that's true. I'm never going to tell you that I've got the answer in my back pocket for evacuations. And I'm going to take it one step further and say that this person who we are lucky enough to have come up here from Butte County, he said, and I'll probably say it a little bit less profane than he did in the moment, he said that your first plan always goes to poop, without fail. So as Kelly said a second ago, we should all be adaptable, because every one of us can come up with this great plan. I know exactly what I'm going to do. If this happens, I'm going to do that. And then when this happens, that's not going to be possible. So be adaptable, because your first plan is probably going to fly out the window the second the poop hits the fan. And everything about this is going to be a work in progress.
Do we have outreach to Spanish-speaking or other non-English-speaking folks in our community?
Yeah, there's been a big push at that, especially at the Jackson County emergency management level. So all of our evacuation notices, if you were paying attention, they all include Spanish. That's primarily the largest second language group that we have. I think if you want to learn more about other evacuation like messaging and things, I would look at the state's website because they have a really good team that's been crafting all kinds of different language, Russian and Mandarin. And maybe one of these days when we get larger populations, if we all speak Mandarin in Ashland, then we'll have some of those too, because I'd like to learn it.
Thank you so much. There have been questions about what to do with go bags. So, keep it by your door. Should you keep it in your car? What creative answers do you have for what to do about go bags?
I'll speak specifically to my situation because I'm also a citizen. When it's hot and dry and windy, my little go bag, I have one in a vehicle, an old beat up pickup, because I like old beat up pickups, and it just sits in the back seat. I also have a bag that's by my door that's got a change of clothes, a book, and a bottle of water. My own situation is that when we do get the event, I'm heading towards it so that I can get messages out to all of you because I'm a lifelong responder. That's just what I do. But if I needed to get out of the way, I at least have something in my vehicle that's going to sustain me. What about you, Charisse?
I took a class on earthquake preparedness, the big Cascadia fault, and the instructors advised having a go bag or food and water, plan on that instead of for fires. And then have one in each car, and one that you travel with, like when you go shopping at Costco. Because if the big one happens and you have to get home, how are you going to get there? And so she recommended having your go bag as a backpack or something that would enable you to walk. Because under the earthquake scenario, the road system, the utility systems are supposed to crack up. And it will be unsafe to drink the water. I mean, the wildfire scenario is nothing compared to the earthquake scenario. But that was the advice, and she carries around a small backpack with her every time she goes shopping. I can't quite get my act together to do that. But the answer is have as many as you can afford, and then something else you can consider. Traditionally, the go bag was carry your important papers. Well, that's kind of dangerous to have in your car all the time. We personally have made the decision to upload all of our important papers onto the cloud in a secure area, so we don't have to worry about having to evacuate with that information. And if our home burns, we have everything we need documented on a computer.
And I think similar advice would go to keep a list of your prescriptions in a place that you could access without a computer or without your phone. Consider saving something like that on a Google Drive, or just, my mom has a list of my prescriptions in Texas. So if I lose contact with that information, she can always share it back to me. Think kind of creatively about who might hold that information for you. You might find a friend that you can make even closer by sharing what your medication needs are. We've got a note from Lori Kaplan, and who's one of our organizers. She is collecting emails near the exit, so if you didn't register or didn't share your email and you would like the information from tonight, please sign up with her. I can see her beautiful silhouette from where I'm standing. So don't miss out. Make sure that you share that information with us. So we've got a few questions about citywide sirens. Do we have a citywide notification of any kind?
Specifically for floods, we do. We have sirens that are in the flood inundation zone from our Rita Reservoir, where our water supply is, all the way down through town. But it's a new idea, right? Because we had the flash floods in Texas. And we've had this question before, and there's been a little pushback as to well, if you have a siren for floods and then you have a siren for fires, you're going to wake people up and people aren't going to know what's coming. There's part of me that's like, I'd rather have you know. So it's another one of those ideas whose time has come, I think. So let's get together and see if we can find some way to make a reliable siren source. There is, I know there's a community in Southern California that has like sirens that are connected to an emergency manager's message system. So they actually speak in several languages and they say, hey, wildfire's coming. It's like it looks like a siren, it's solar powered, it's all the stuff that California has. But it's got weaknesses, like what if the connections go down? What if the electric goes down? Okay. So nothing's gonna be perfect, but I think we should be taking a look at every possible way to get the information into your hands. And if that means waking you up with a siren now and then, I'd do that.
Thank you. I'd also like to recommend a solar-powered weather radio. I've got one of those in my house. That is something that when you do lose power, when you don't have cell phone signal, that is something that will get through. So that would be a tip that I can share with you. And keep some extra batteries around just in case. We have a question about whether you should park your car outside of the garage during red flag events.
Yeah.
But the windows need to be up. Cars burn. And if embers are pouring in onto your car seats, the car's going to burn. In fact, during all red flag periods, all windows should be kept closed.
This is another big question that's relevant to our community. Are there plans for our unhoused population during events like this?
I think when we talk about the unhoused, we're also talking about people who just don't have good access to transportation. We don't have a full plan for how to rescue everybody on that. However, there were moments during the Alameda where if we identified a place where there were people that didn't have transportation, there were some very quick thinking law enforcement officers. I don't know if anybody knows this story, but the mobile home park off of Low Road, off of exit 19, the fire was pushing people down into the gully like it was going to take them. And two officers, like super heads up Jackson County Sheriff's officers, jumped in their cars, they drove down to Butler Ford and they said, hey, we need 2 vans. And the folks at Butler Ford threw them 2 sets of keys for 2 vans. And these guys, like, nobody taught them this. So they jump in those vans and they drove up and back down into Low Road under the protection of firefighters with hoses and water. And they got down and they punched through the fire. They threw all the people in the vans and drove them out. There were moments of heroism that will never be repeated again quite like that. But these problems are solvable. Does the city have a bunch of vans and then drivers to do that? No. But how do we solve that?
Should you turn off your gas before you evacuate?
In some recommendations for evacuations, it says shut off your natural gas. Our local Avista Natural Gas Authority says don't do it. Don't bother with it. We do know that natural gas meters on homes, when lots of homes burned in Talent and Phoenix, could have contributed to more fires, and yes, they did. And yet, it's not on you if you didn't turn off your natural gas if your neighbor's house catches on fire and your natural gas meter. Avista's recommendation is don't do it.
If you have a neighbor or someone nearby who has an untended lawn, so weeds that are out of control, things that look like a definite fuel source, is there a way to report them?
Yeah. So the city of Ashland and with Ashland Fire Department has Sidney Jenkins. He's our CERT coordinator, as well as he does a lot of weed abatement inspections. And I would look Sidney up and contact him. Now, sometimes, because we're all paying attention, sometimes we get the same message for the same property from multiple places. Sidney's on it. He is one person trying to do the job of many, and so sometimes it doesn't get handled right away, but I know that that's our avenue to take care of weed abatement issues. Talk to Sid.
Can I modify that a little bit? Sid is very busy, and the formal way of doing things is to register a complaint online. And that's how enforcement can happen in the city. So if you see something that you think is a fuel hazard, I'd be careful about it, but that's one way to report it, is file a complaint and then they can check it out. Otherwise, Sydney might be overwhelmed with phone calls.
I'm sure Sydney thinks you, Cherise. There is on the City of Ashland website, you can actually just search for report a concern or something like that. There's a whole series of drop-down menus that will help you. Use our city's website. They just redesigned it. It's beautiful. See, click, fit, fix. See, click, fix. That makes so much more sense. Thanks, Bob. See, click, fix on the city's website. Okay, I think we've made it through a majority of the questions. If you still have an outstanding question, our volunteers are happy to pick them up, but let's wrap up our evening, y'all. Thank you all for being here with me tonight. Let's give us all a round of applause.